This week, Ben Worthy from Airbus Protect is with us to discuss OT security and business resilience. Then, in this week's topic segment, we discuss business incentives for building secure software and products. Finally, in the enterprise security news, RSA Innovation Sandbox hot takes. Did AI solve cyber? Fundings and acquisitions. A free app to warn you about smart glasses. Deep thoughts about OpenClaw. Replacing US tech with EU equivalents is really hard. Should you turn off Dependabot? Accidentally taking over 7,000 robot vacuums? Whoops. The director of AI safety at Meta loses her email somehow. Should you go back to using a BlackBerry? All that and more on this episode of Enterprise Security Weekly.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we talk security vendors and aren't afraid to name names. It's Enterprise Security Weekly. When it comes to the UK's critical infrastructure, cybersecurity isn't just protecting IT system or data, it's about keeping the lights on. Airbus Protect specializes in OT security, shielding the industrial systems that power our transport, utilities, and government. With UK national security clearances, they provide a sovereign-first approach that most providers can't match. They bridge the gap between complex engineering and modern digital threats. Secure your operations with a partner who understands the high stakes of British industry. Speak to their experts at securityweekly.com/Airbus Protect. That's securityweekly.com/Airbus Protect. Welcome to Enterprise Security Weekly and happy National Chili Day. This is episode 448, recorded on Thursday, February 25th, 2026. I'm your host, Adrian Sanabria, and joining me is the Dean of Data Science, the Knight of Neurodiversity, the Watcher of Data Center Waste, Jackie McGuire. How you doing, Jackie?
Howdy. I am fantastic. My children are home. If you hear screaming and smashing and things being thrown, it is rodeo days in my town. That is a thing that we do that we actually give children school days off for. So, yeehaw.
And I normally hear all those sounds anyway, just even in a quiet room. So I need a vacation.
Yeah. We do. We both do. We were just saying it's been a really long 2026 already.
Yeah, it has. Also joining us is the Baron of Bloodhound, the Pirate King of PowerShell, Sean Metcalf. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, Adrian, doing good. So I have to ask, chili with beans or without?
Yes. I don't care. If you've ever seen me in person, you would look at me and say, he doesn't care if it has beans or not. He's going to eat it.
That man likes chili.
Yeah, beans and rice. If I were asked, like if I could only choose one meal for the rest of my life, it would probably be black beans and rice. But I'd be equally happy with chili and rice, or chili and corn chips. Yeah, that's kind of my happy place.
One of the white trash fast foods that I still love is Wendy's chili, and I'm not afraid to admit it.
It's
Apparently
not bad.
Someone went a whole year or an extended period of time eating only Wendy's chili.
Oh, really?
I don't remember the exact story, but yeah.
There are worse things that you could survive off of. It's a fairly, you're going to get some complete protein and some fiber. Yeah, not a terrible choice, but I wouldn't ever want to just go off of one food. Yeah, my youngest, two of my kids used to work at Texas Roadhouse, and I'm not a fan of most of the food there, but I did find what worked for me was they had some grilled shrimp that you could get. They're basically two sides, and then their chili was okay. And I was pretty happy with those two things there. So Texas Roadhouse has some pretty decent chili as well. Nice. If you find yourself there, maybe not by choice and want something that's not covered in some kind of sauce or something like that. Anyway, a few announcements, and then we'll jump into the show here. Security Weekly listeners can save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd to March 26th in San Francisco. To register using our discount code, please visit securityweekly.com/RSAC26 and use the code 56U5SEC That's SEC Weekly. We hope to see you there. And if you're going to do that soon. Hotels are going to be losing availability. Tickets, flights are going to go up. It's coming up real soon. We're, I think, almost exactly a month away.
Yes.
And even closer than that is Zero Trust World. So Zero Trust World is coming up March 4th through 6th in Orlando, Florida. That's next week. This hands-on cybersecurity event features live hacking labs where you will break real environments, think like an adversary, learn how attacks really work. You'll also get expert sessions, real world case studies, CPE credits, blah, blah, blah. A lot of cool people are speaking. Marcus, what's Marcus's last name? Hutchins. Yeah. Is speaking. I think Adam Savage of Mythbusters fame is doing the closing keynote. Linus Tech Tips is going to be there. Him and the two guys you see on the WAN show, if you've ever watched the WAN show, both going to be there. And they're doing also one of the final keynotes on the last day, which I will miss because I will be flying to Mexico for vacation, for much needed sun. It's been too long since
Interesting timing for flying to Mexico.
Is it?
Yeah, with the issues happening in Puerto Vallarta. Apparently,
I know, it's like one of the most common places for cruise ships to dock there.
Right.
Like I've been there like multiple times on cruises. So,
what part of the country is this?
Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. Apparently, the cartel leader got killed, and it's been all-out warfare in the city.
Yeah, so have fun.
Is that on the Gulf side, or the Caribbean side, or the Pacific side?
My
Caribbean
Mexico
side.
geography is failing me at the moment.
East side.
Well, I mean, Chicago's a mess, but I don't worry about it when I go to San Diego, right?
That's true.
Or parts of Chicago can be. I don't even worry about going to Chicago. Like, violence is very relative.
And it'll make for great content, so
Exactly.
it'll be fine.
It's all fine.
No, it's like just south of that's thousands of miles away from where I'm going to be.
Good to hear.
Yay.
Like it's I'm going to be closer to Guatemala than that. So I'm going to be closer to Cuba, closer to a lot of things than that. Yeah, that is about as far away in Mexico as you can get from where I'm going to be.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Right. So Zero Trust World, go to securityweekly.com/ZTW and you can still register. I guess if you're in the Orlando area, hotels are pretty easy to find, or if it's local to you, still plenty of time to grab a ticket there and check that out. All right. And with that, we are going to break right here and jump to our first interview, which I'm going to be in a different location. Jackie's going to be wearing something different because this was pre-recorded on a different day. And then we will come back here for our topic segment. In this week's interview, we're chatting with Ben Worthy. He's an OT security specialist at Airbus Protect and has over 25 years of experience with ICS and SCADA systems across aerospace, civil nuclear, water, oil and gas, chemical, and pharma. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
That's quite a CV. That's it's a good range.
Yeah. It's one of those where where I started isn't necessarily where I expected to be now. I started in control systems engineering. I guess even before cybersecurity was a thing, and then as I worked through that engineering and that OT space, then people started to think, actually, we might need to improve security or even think about security. So that's why I'm here.
And I think for most of our listeners, Airbus Protect is going to be a new name to them. Airbus maybe not, but the fact that Airbus has a cybersecurity subsidiary. So maybe let's start there and help us understand what Airbus Protect does, why it exists.
Yeah, well, obviously you know Airbus, the aircraft manufacturer, but not just aircraft, so defence and space as well, helicopters. But yeah, Airbus Protect, Airbus company, we're a risk management leader in safety, cybersecurity, and sustainability. So we're around 1,800 people, based in the UK, France, Germany, Spain, and Belgium as well. So you might expect we work a lot in aerospace and aviation, but not only for Airbus as the internal customer, but for the wider aviation ecosystem as well. But we don't just limit ourselves into aviation. We're also working in other forms of transport, within energy, nuclear, public institutions, and C&I, so this critical national infrastructure field as well. So there's obviously there's a lot of important OT systems and critical systems within that field. So that's another area that we look at. But yeah, we're not just, I guess, about a simple compliance approach. We really aim to strengthen incident prevention as well, and business resilience at every level. So that's really where our focus is as Airbus Protect.
And then your particular role there, if you can help me understand that a little bit as well.
Yeah, so my role is OT security team leader in Airbus Protect. So it's I guess making sure that we've got the right people within OT consulting, within the fields that we work in. We've got the right people, the right mix of skills, but also the portfolio of services as well to meet our customers' needs. And I also like to make sure that we try and anticipate those future demands as well. So understand what the market's looking like, what those threats, what that threat landscape looks like as well, and make sure that we've got the right people, the right technologies in place to do that. And as well as that OT security leadership role, I'm also hands-on as well in terms of risk assessment, site audits, and general OT security activities as well.
And speaking of threat landscape, that has changed, I think, considerably over the last couple of years. We've seen ransomware crews kind of shift from just blindly encrypting data to try and get companies to pay a ransom, to actually figuring out how to interrupt operations, how to stop the flow of revenue as a means to extort companies. Is that what you're seeing, particularly in the OT space and companies that are concerned with manufacturing as well?
Yeah, I guess we've seen quite a varied picture, but a lot of what we see now is that convergence of IT and OT. So it's more of a grey area, like where your IT starts and your OT finishes. It's really there's a bit of a greying of that area, because even if your business is targeted, that could still affect the operational environment, even if we're not actually talking about an attack that was intentionally trying to stop your operations, your organization's key industrial operations. Then the fact that we've got this IT-OT convergence means that stopping of IT operations can stop your wider business. And I guess part of that is because the IT might rely on two-way communication, so things like MES, so manufacturing execution systems, or ERP, so your enterprise resource planning, that needs information from the shop floor. It needs to know what's being produced, how efficient it is, what parts are being used, and what need to be ordered, for example. So we're seeing that two-way traffic. So we're seeing information from the shop floor being fed into IT to give that wider and clearer picture, but also maybe work orders or instructions into an operational environment as well. So, as I say, if an IT application, so if your MES system was impacted by a ransomware attack, then that isn't actually hitting your OT system, but because it can't communicate, then it's going to stop your operations. So we're seeing that's kind of effective.
Here in the US, the case of Colonial Pipeline, I understand they didn't touch OT. Is that where you were going, Josh?
Well, I was going to talk about that as
It was
well.
the billing system, right?
Yeah, it's exactly that. I mean, and it's a mindset, I think, and that's what I wanted to ask Ben, is the mindset that my perception is that the mindset in OT world, if you will, is that we are separated. We are not touched by IT. We are not in contact with them at all. But in reality, they absolutely are.
Yeah.
And they may not even realize it. And is that something of what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly that. I guess it's a lot of it is the people that are working there, and in OT you've got an engineering mindset. You've got people who are hands-on, who are actually producing components or producing things on the production line, or it might be like a continuous production, like electricity or gas or something like that. But yeah, it's people that have got a hands-on understanding of, right, these systems need to work. We've got this engineering cyber physical system. It needs to run, it needs to operate, and then if it's not operating, then we're not producing, we're not making money for the company. So it's having that clear picture of what that operation needs to look like. And as you say, that might be a different mindset maybe to for the IT people. I guess it's more about data handling and confidentiality of data, which is a slightly different mindset. So yeah, it might be a different approach, but as we've just discussed, then operationally it can still be the same effect on the business.
Yeah, and overall, what we're talking about here is really, which has become, I don't want to say a buzzword, but you certainly hear it a lot more commonly today, is resilience, and the idea that even if you do have a breach, and I'm seeing this more and more in different cases where maybe cybersecurity turns into something like fraud, where there's no expectation that you're ever going to drive it to zero and stop all of it, but you do want to survive it. You want it to be financially survivable. You want to be able to recover quickly, to continue operations through some of these incidents. Is that what's the thinking from your side? Is the focus on still heavily on prevention or on business continuity through the breach or the cyber incident? And they're not all malicious breaches, right? Like this could be something accidental as well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're right. I guess in as much as possible, you want to prevent those situations occurring, but we're all realists here. We realize that these things most likely will happen. So I guess, what you're looking at is resilience. Is when an attack does happen, how do you withstand that attack and how do you successfully recover? I would say, it's clearly it's making sure that you're being realistic. You're anticipating that actually, things might happen to us. We've seen it around other companies, other incidents. So let's make sure that if that thing was to happen to us, have we got all those things in place? Do we understand what our assets are? Do we understand not just what the assets are, but the most critical assets, which really are the key things that we need to keep moving. We need to keep working to enable our business to continue.
Ben, are you saying we should do fundamental things like inventories and prioritization, classification of data? My God, man, don't you understand it has to be shiny and silver bullets? Like otherwise, it's just not worth doing, right? Come on.
Yeah, I know. That's it's out of fashion maybe to say that, but it is. It's the reason we say it is because it's important.
Is that an insinuation that everybody doesn't have their data properly classified and identified? Because I'm going to AI my entire organization, and that's like the foundational step. Doesn't everybody have that done?
No, just to be clear, in with all the sarcastic tones that you used, and very well done, by the way. No, they don't.
Yeah. And I would say in OT that can be even worse, because we're talking here about systems that can be old, that can be decades old, because they work. They're big industrial systems. They're expensive. They've got one function. They do that function really well, but they're old. So do the people that install that, do they still work there? Have you got
no? Are they dead? Like
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, if Ben, I think earlier when you were describing what Airbus Protect did, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you included safety in there. So maybe it's not entirely just cybersecurity.
Yes, yeah, you're right. We have a big part of the business is safety. So I guess what we can think about safety is well, I guess safety and integrity very very important for the systems that we work on, but also obviously for wider CNI as well. And generally that's a concern for critical national infrastructure. So what we're talking about here is those cyber physical systems. So things that move, things that interact with the real world. So when you're talking about that, then you've got that kinetic effect. You've got energy. You've got processes. You've got maybe hazardous chemicals and so on. So safety is really paramount in terms of understanding what the system is and which of your systems, which of your assets are critical for safety, because you might have a good understanding of what those assets are, or you might not, but understanding which ones are safety critical, which ones are more business and production critical is very key to understanding and protecting that.
We were just talking about that in terms of, if you change a couple temperature readings on fire sensors and deploy fire foam when you've got a bunch of people in the building, that's a huge risk.
Exactly.
And I'm an ex-fireman, and that stuff is like they came out a few years after I was a fireman. They came after us like, "Did you ever use foam?" Like, why? Because it causes cancer and everything. Oh God.
Wow.
Yeah, we had an Air Force base in South Tucson that did a bunch of exercises with it, and now you can't drink the groundwater in South Tucson because it's completely contaminated. So, and it's like a multi-billion-dollar cleanup project to fix it because of all of the chemicals involved.
Wow. Yeah, and I think there's fire suppression systems as well. There's different types of gas that you'll see in data centers and things like that. They're not
stuff that removes the oxygen from the air.
Exactly.
You don't want to be in there when that happens.
I was just thinking about the old halon. The old halon you'd be like standing there and be like, "Oh, they're going to drop halon. You're going to die. Get out."
Yeah.
But it won't be on fire, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Leave a good-looking corpse.
Yeah.
You'll suffocate, not burn.
Yeah.
Priorities, man. Priorities.
Yeah. But that point that you mentioned, Adrian, about safety, I think that the mindset on safety, I guess safety is about protecting systems from failure or from natural events, but security is trying to prevent that deliberate or malicious act or human error or something that could affect the system. So safety is about prevention of failure, but security is about preventing a successful attack happening. So there's a slightly different mindset that you need to understand in terms of those two areas. But it's still they're both very important in terms of the operational.
I imagine there is a potential for overlap there too. There are OT systems. There are computers that manage some of the safety aspects there. The Stuxnet, I think is, if you're talking about safety of the systems themselves, the whole goal there was to destroy equipment without attracting too much attention in that case. And human safety can come into it as well. Like you don't want machines switching on when somebody's on the wrong side of the red tape on the floor, on the factory floor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting you mentioned Stuxnet, because a lot of the time we talk about availability of systems and safety, but Stuxnet was actually an integrity attack, wasn't it? Because it was manipulating the data. So people thought it was operating correctly, but actually it was doing something else. So that's another really important area that we try and assess the vulnerability of systems to integrity attacks. So it's not just, can you stop the machine working, but can you actually change the data so it does something that you wouldn't want it to do, or it does something that you wouldn't want it to do in its normal operation. So I guess that's a lot of the time when we do our risk assessments, we start with a business impact assessment, and we we try and get as many different people, as many different stakeholders, because people know their function. They know what their little bit of equipment does, and they've got a really good view of that. But it's only by bringing all that information together and having that full business impact assessment that you can understand, actually, we've got a system over here that interacts with something over here, that they're two different people, two different groups of people working on it, but taking one out will affect the overall operation. So yeah, that's what we really try and understand, is if these systems go down, so whether it's an availability issue, if it just stops working, or the integrity of that system fails, then how can that affect the overall operations of the business? How can it affect safety? So yeah, I think that's really important to get that picture.
So those are
how do you balance like the cost of installing, like, I don't know if this is the right term, but like relief valves? Because if you're talking about super complex industrial processes and one piece of that chain is broken, like everything downstream of that chain stops working. So you need some level of redundancy and resiliency, but you can't have like parallel systems, obviously. But how do you kind of determine when it makes sense to have some type of secondary option if something really far up in the process breaks?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because that is ultimately that is your safety engineering aspect. And again, it goes back to that impact assessment and that hazard analysis. So if what that system is doing, if what that system is controlling is really bad, if that's controlling pressured gas or oil or some other flammable fluid, or it's controlling a nuclear power station, then yeah, you might the effect of something going wrong might be so bad that you can a redundant system, or a triple redundant system, or even a quad redundant system could be it could fit in that business balance. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all part of that assessment that you have to make when you're designing these systems, when you're understanding what the risk is to make sure that you've got that those scenarios covered.
So we've got a lot of examples that have occurred in, I think, just the last year, that impact organizations in these verticals, like aviation, third-party breaches. I think that's a big one. When something critical in your supply chain goes. I think for a long time in cybersecurity, we worried about the stuff that we directly had control over. And we've just increasingly outsourced more and more things to third parties. And yeah. I feel like I'd love to get your opinion on this, but like the SITA PSS breach is one example here, where, maybe we forgot to think about third parties, and then even fourth parties in some cases where, your third party's third party has an outage, and that now becomes your outage, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So I guess we're talking about outages affecting operations. So yeah, if your supplier is down, is not available, then that can definitely have a knock-on effect. So I guess we're not going to move away from that sort of third-party support. There's always going to be lots of vendors and third-party suppliers within within that sort of ecosystem. So I guess really you've got to treat the suppliers, those third parties, as another critical assets. So make sure that you understand exactly what they're providing for your business. Make sure that you've put those controls in place that are proportionate to the risk to your business if that vendor wasn't available. But what we're also seeing is that if a malicious actor wants to attack maybe a big organization, then often the third parties are the weakest link, are the easiest route in. So it might not even be a big third party organization. There's lots of smaller outfits as well that might not have as many resources available. So yeah, making sure that you understand exactly what that supply chain looks like, what that supply chain risk looks like is equally important, because yeah, as you say, if that goes down, then yeah, that can stop your business as easily as a direct attack on you.
We've seen it happen in both directions, I think, where, I think the easiest example to pull is Fazio Mechanical with Target. So your suppliers as a way into the larger business. But then with Jaguar Land Rover, I think the big surprise there is it's easy to forget how many smaller third parties and suppliers, both upstream and downstream, are affected by one big organization. Their operations impacted. I saw estimates like 5,000 businesses impacted by just Jaguar Land Rover, right?
Yeah,
and some of those are entirely dependent, right? If you're like a dealership or a shop that specializes, and your diagnostic tools are down, your online schematics, blueprints and things like that for fixing cars, your ability to order parts, and that's all you do is that one marquee, that one brand. That's rough.
Yeah. And a lot of that supply chain is just in time manufacturing as well. So those suppliers will receive an order. They work on that order and then they deliver exactly as required. So if they are suddenly hit with an outage, they can't communicate, then you're right, that immediately stops. And in the UK that was big news last year, because the government had some financial support. They had to have a loan, like an emergency loan for all these supply chain companies, so they didn't go out of business essentially, because it was such a big effect. And I think I read somewhere that it actually affected the UK GDP for the last quarter of last year, because it was such a big wide effect. So I guess to some extent, labeling something like that as just an OT security incident might disguise its wider ramifications, because it's not just the business, it's obviously the wider ecosystem and maybe even like national security or national economy concerns as well. So it can spread.
Yeah. When we owned my husband and I owned a mechanical contractor, did commercial HVAC. And I think there's also this interesting trade-off that businesses look at for, like, say, a large casino or a large hotel, between securing their control system and also being able to very quickly call another mechanical contractor and have them be able to do whatever they need to do. So the vast majority of our customers were using, admin, or, just a very basic login, or it was on a Post-it note, on the terminal of the main control system. Because if your contractor is not available and your hotel is at 95 degrees because the control system is down, they're like, the chances that somebody's going to compromise this system are low and maybe damaging, but the chances that our control system is going to go down and we can't log into it to fix something are significantly higher. And so it's really hard to emphasize to those people why security is important when they see one risk significantly more often than they see another. But my husband knew the default password and login for, 15 different control systems for HVAC. And the vast majority of the time, systems were still using those, because if you need to get in, you're not overly concerned. Your CISO is not usually asking whether that particular system is locked down. And I think post-Target breach, it's definitely become a bigger concern. But it's I think that, like, this is where the friction between best practices and practicality comes into place. And I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of businesses to balance.
Security and usability.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an important thing for security folks to understand as well, though. That sometimes cybersecurity is not the most important thing to the business, right? Keeping operations running.
Heretic.
Sometimes it's like the example I like to use is like Home Depot is a like $120 billion a year revenue company. And if you go to their corporate webpage, they mention 47 different executives are mentioned on that corporate webpage. None of them even tangential to cybersecurity, right? Like there's nothing that even sniffs of cybersecurity on there. And this is a company who's been through a very public breach. So I think that's an interesting litmus test for, like, okay, like, there are other things that are really important here, right?
Yeah. I think one of the things I've also seen is that with the proliferation of data centers, companies are being required to use smaller and smaller vendors for things, be it calibration, all of these different things. And there's not a lot of diligence on those third parties. So, you're hiring this like 6-person, tool company to come in and do calibrations or testing or things like that. And very often they're not asking for a SOC 2. They're not asking for any type of proof that they have, so you can have a large industrial operation that has the best security in place, but if they're not also doing diligence on all of the little vendors they're having to use, and because of the high demand for these vendors, like I said, that we're using smaller and smaller vendors and new vendors are popping up, that kind of secondary and tertiary risk is not something I see companies managing very well, even the largest companies. If it's nobody's job, very, very infrequently will somebody proactively volunteer to do it or even think about it. And that's like, we talked, I think, a lot recently in the last few months about if you don't make something somebody's responsibility, the chances somebody's just going to step up and take on that responsibility are very low.
Yeah.
So
absolutely, Jackie.
So Ben,
and third parties, God help you.
So speaking of data centers, they're getting bigger and bigger, and we're now seeing talk of putting small modular reactors in data centers. So Ben, I wonder, my co-hosts both face and hands, but what typical data center operators are not used to this in their environment. Maybe diesel generators is as close as they get to nuclear reactors. But what do they need? What do folks need to be thinking of? With this kind of change in that particular industry.
Yeah, it's a good point, because I'd say that the predicted demand in data centers and obviously the energy requirements is just going to be phenomenal. So I think the practical usage of SMRs and maybe even these micro reactors as well is very attractive. So I can understand why people are focusing on this, and it's hopefully it's going to be a really good technology, but making sure that when we're designing these systems that we are considering safety and security as one, essentially, or at least things that are very closely overlapping is really important, because making sure that we've got a similar approach within the aviation sector, is bringing together safety and information security. So we're talking hopefully the same language. We've got similar management systems. So we've got safety management systems, we've got information security management systems. If we can bring all these together in a combined ISMS or even an integrated resilience management system, that's a really good way to hopefully keep those conversations and those thoughts that actually we're talking safety, but how can cybersecurity impact safety of this system? So let's get those teams talking together, avoid that siloed working, and learn lessons from other sectors that have done successfully in there.
And to Jackie's point, how important is it going to be to have somebody with explicit responsibility for this with these systems versus like implied or assumed responsibility as we often see currently? So I think making sure that we can identify who is the risk owner, who owns this risk is really key, because as we do our own risk management, as we work with customers and companies to understand how do you address this, it's not just what are the risks, but whose risks are they, who can take that responsibility for addressing that. So it's really important that as well as identifying the risks, we make sure that we address who's going to manage those risks, who's going to put that risk treatment plan in place, who's going to follow through with that and own it and make sure that it's something that is addressed by the company. And I guess it goes on to the wider company's risk register as well. All right. Yeah, I think that's it's good advice there. Any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
I guess my main thought would be to tell people to aim for that resilience. So as we started talking, we said that, yeah, something will happen. You might not want it to, and maybe it's, I don't want it to be a negative ending, but yeah, if we have the expectation that something will happen, then that gives you the opportunity to prepare for that. So have those plans in place, have those incident response plans in place, but make sure you test them. Make sure that you understand how it helps your business. Maybe we need to get third parties involved in that. So yeah, make sure that you understand all those third parties. If the worst happens, what do you do? How do you keep your business going? So yeah, make sure that you test those plans. You've got those plans in place, but keep looking at them. Make sure that they improve as the business changes. Then you keep developing those plans to keep the lights on, essentially.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for joining me today. Really interesting conversation. Glad we got to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to talk about OT, and hopefully we've hit a wider audience with this one.
All right. Make sure you check out securityweekly.com / I believe it's Airbus Protect. Find out more about what.
Yes. Yeah? So yeah, our website is protect.airbus.com. So if you want to find more information.
Okay. But we do have securityweekly.com / Airbus Protect. We'll forward there, okay, and that'll let us know that you came from this podcast as well. So you have multiple ways Perfect. Of getting there. Thank you again, Ben, and stick around. We'll be right back with our topic segment. This episode is brought to you by Adaptive Security, the first cybersecurity company backed by OpenAI. AI has fundamentally reshaped the threat landscape. Today, the greatest risk isn't someone breaking into your systems, it's someone breaking into your trust. Deepfake voices joining your video calls, AI-crafted phishing emails that perfectly mimic your executives, even synthetic job applicants entering through the front door. Adaptive Security is designed to counter these new realities. The company delivers real-time attack simulations that show security teams exactly what modern AI-driven threats look and sound like, and prepares them to respond effectively. Learn more at securityweekly.com / adaptive. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. Threatlocker enforces default deny at execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com / Threatlocker. Right now with Tanium, IT and security teams complete patching programs in minutes, not weeks. Reduce software vulnerabilities by up to 97%. Cut incident response times by up to 99%. This is not just IT, this is autonomous IT, making business, your business, unstoppable. Tanium, autonomous IT, unstoppable business. See more at securityweekly.com / Tanium. All right, welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. For this week's topic segment, we discuss incentives to create secure products. This is something that's kind of weighed on me for a while. When the Secure by Design initiative came out, I believe it was 2023 from CISA. When CISA was somewhat whole still, it's a different situation today. They presented the Secure by Design initiative. And like many other initiatives, it sounded good. It said lots of good things, but I didn't see how it was going to change anything. Though I tend to be an optimist in general, I tend to be a pessimist with these kind of like appeal to companies' better natures. Companies don't have better natures, right? They have better profits. They have better shareholder value. But they don't have, a corporate entity doesn't have ethics, doesn't have better nature, unless they're forced to, right? And I didn't see that here with Secure by Design. Love Bob Lord. He poured his heart and soul into this, but I just didn't see any financial incentives, didn't see any regulation. There was really no component here to get companies to do this. And almost worse is the fact that everybody was just kind of like piling over one another to sign this pledge. And one of those companies that signed the pledge was Ivanti. And this is just after Ivanti had some really bad vulnerabilities that got a lot of companies hacked. And then right after they signed the pledge, more companies got hacked because of vulnerabilities in Ivanti's products, namely Pulse Secure. Pulse Secure VPN, I think, was one of the big culprits here. And there is and we're going to include this in the show notes, but there's a Bloomberg piece that kind of details how Ivanti got put together. It was basically a private equity firm, took a bunch of different security companies, glued them all together as private equity firms do. Pulse Secure was one of those. And, the private equity MO is, to flip a company for maybe 2x, 3x, but they're big numbers, right? Buy a bunch of companies, put them together for 1 billion, sell them for 3 billion, or have it IPO or something like that. So laid off a bunch of people, signed the pledge, laid off more people after signing the pledge, didn't fix any of the issues. And even as of January this year, we're still seeing brand new critical, actively exploited vulnerabilities in Ivanti products. So I kind of present this as what's the lever here? What's the incentive? They've actually lost a lot of customers. The U.S. government came out and said, there's no other advice we can give except don't use these products anymore. We cannot recommend using these products anymore. The CISO at Ivanti, at the time that the pledge was signed, he was fired later, and basically after he was fired, said, yeah, I recommended just ditching the code base altogether. The product just wasn't worth fixing at that point. And they lost a lot of revenue. This Bloomberg piece goes through all of it, where I think just for the Pulse Secure product line was earning around 300 million in revenue. And then 18 months later, it was down to 150 million. They lost a ton of customers. But it's still not enough of an incentive for them to fix the product, apparently. So, the question here is what are we left with? Without regulation, and, right now there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interest in creating new cybersecurity regulation for U.S. companies. Where are the incentives? What do we do? How do we make secure products and secure software a thing?
And these perimeter devices have just been getting wrecked with vulnerabilities. Avanti's one of many, but certainly one of the ones that's been wrecked the most. And so if you don't have a good process in order to triage these vulnerabilities and get them fixed and get the fixes out to customers, then more customers and more companies are going to get attacked and breached.
Well, and I think that this is the nature of private equity. And this isn't just in security, it's industry-wide, worldwide, economy-wide, is that private equity firms are insulated from the losses of the companies that they do this with, that they just kind of smash a bunch of things together. And there's never any financial line back to the private equity firm where you could sue Ivanti and actually get your hands on the money of the private equity firm, because they're all put into their own holding companies. And so I don't even know if incentive is the right question, because I don't know in a private equity world if there's ever going to be enough carrot to get private equity companies to do the right thing. And it's got to be a lot more stick. And there's got to be gross negligence should have some financial line back to the private equity company, because that's the only way you're ever going to achieve any amount of accountability. And this whole financial structure has been around since the 80s. And I think what we've seen is that consumers are worse off for it. The economy is worse off for it. Working class people are worse off for it. But because it makes a few people a lot of billions of dollars to have things organized this way, it continues. And I don't know. I don't know that there's ever a world where there are going to be enough incentives, unless it's tax breaks for the billionaires who own the private equity funds, to really change any of this, because it's its own little, it's gambling, right? It's like roulette. It's like, oh, we'll build 15 of these companies, and even if 4 of them go bankrupt, as long as we can 2, 3, 4x the other ones, then our net is still positive. And I don't mean to sound cynical, but there are just so many different things that I've been looking at the last couple weeks that private equity has just really, really eviscerated. The whole privatize the gain, socialize the losses, and security is the most directly applicable to what we're doing. But this happens economy wide.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I don't think you can underscore the impact it's having on the cybersecurity market as well, because in terms of exits, like, we just stopped seeing IPOs for cybersecurity firms, and a lot of the companies that had IPO'd ended up getting taken private by, just systematically by private equity firms. And there's been a lot of underperforming. Like, one of the things we're going to talk about in the news segment is Claude came out with a security product, and all the security stocks took a huge haircut, like a 15% haircut across all cybersecurity stocks. So IPO doesn't make a lot of sense for a cybersecurity company, I think, for a variety of reasons. And if you're small, you might exit to a larger security company. But once you reach a certain size, it's just private equity all the way. Almost all the exits tend to be to private equity firms, and even exits from private equity firms often go to other private equity firms, right? So it's there's
not even really shareholder accountability, because one of the things that used to drive doing the right thing is your shareholders are going to sue you, and you don't have that anymore. So there's something about the financial structure of things has to change. And I think there's a broader conversation to be had here about what types of companies should be allowed to have what types of structures. And there are a lot of critical infrastructure components. And I think beyond security, things like healthcare, things like utilities. And it's like, should all of these things be allowed to be private equity companies? Should all these things even be allowed to be publicly traded companies? Because, like, the incentive, to your point, the incentive just isn't there, and the accountability isn't there. Nobody's going to sue the private equity company that's also, funding a whole bunch of their other businesses, that's contributing to campaigns, that has massive lobbyists on K Street. It just doesn't happen. And so I think at some point we'll have a reckoning, because this has gotten to the point that I think it's pushing the economy to the brink where, we can't sacrifice things like public utilities to private equity security companies that aren't doing the right thing.
So I don't think we're going to come up with any really solid answers or fixes for this. That's not really the purpose of this topic segment. But the main thing is I just wanted to kind of share this perspective, because we are at an inflection point where I think for certain security product categories, people can now vibe code their own solutions instead. Like there are a lot of security categories that are not essential. I wrote a blog post a little while ago about how, like, one of the main products we're talking about here that caused all these breaches and all these problems was a traditional VPN where you expose either an SSL VPN or an IPsec VPN to the public internet, which puts attack surface out there that anybody can reach. And now with ZTNA and other approaches to remotely accessing networks and systems, things like Tailscale and WireGuard, it's just not necessary to do that anymore. So the piece I put out was kind of comparing this to the asbestos moment for the building, the construction industry, where we have better ways of doing this. Using the old way, using FTP servers for transferring files and VPNs for accessing networks is actively harmful. So, I think it's time to see entire legacy security products and even maybe security categories kind of disappear and go away. So I'm wondering if the market is going to kind of self-correct here, and we just see a lot of products go end of life and never come back.
And the follow-up question is, in a zero trust world, does VPN have a place? Like traditional VPN, does it even have a place in that world?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about like production infrastructure, containers and cloud gave us the concept of immutable infrastructure, where there is no logging into production. You simply fix production in a dev or QA environment, and you destroy production and promote the new images to production. So there's no need to VPN in or RDP in and access these workloads. So yeah, and again, with web apps and things like that, there are products out there where you can give only your employees access to it without standing up a domain name and exposing it to the public internet. And you can use some kind of software-defined networking or zero trust network access for people to get access to that. So it's a good question. Like, what are we even using VPNs for at this point? And do we need to?
Watching cool shows on websites that we can't access from the US. Is that not the right answer?
That's a great answer.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. Yeah, the consumer side of it. I've also got a bit of a rant there, but yeah, those do come in handy. Sometimes it's handy to pretend you're in a different place for reasons.
Yeah, I argued a couple of years ago in something I wrote that there are some core critical components of security that should probably be utilities, and that they, not that I'm under any illusion that CISA is going to do anything great in the next couple of years, but I almost wonder to what extent, like, if we really wanted to do the right thing, and if it wasn't just about profits, and if it was about, we really need to secure critical infrastructure because the entire world is now dependent on the internet, shouldn't there be some things that are not done for profit, that are maintained at a higher level, that are utilities, that are essential, critical components of our society? And I don't know if we're going to get there because everything is for profit, but some of these things really ought to be provided, and I don't know, maybe nationalizing things like that makes it a single point of failure or creates additional opportunities for surveillance. But you would think that there are pieces of this that we could do nationally that just become core pieces of tech that aren't dependent on a company being viable. And if the company goes bankrupt, you're just kind of screwed. And I wonder how long it's going to be until that's a thing, because things are becoming so complex that to try to secure them is difficult.
We are seeing some of that. So B Corps, we're seeing some new corporate structures where, they decouple, the incentive of profit from the mission of the company, where they're no longer required, even if they go public, by shareholders to solely care about the company's profits. So we are starting to see some structures like that, and some cybersecurity companies emerge under those structures. I think it's B Corp. I think that's the right term.
Public
and then
corporation,
yeah, and then open source is the other big one, where when the market has a need, and especially now with AI being able to put things together quickly, we can see more ambitious projects, I think, emerge as the market needs it, as the for-profit market fails to deliver. So I think that's the other path we could see. All right, that's all the time we have for this week's. It turned out to be a very depressing topic segment, but I think kind of needed to be pointed out. I think we need to quit pretending like do the right thing is somehow going to happen with for-profit corporations. And,
but they said they would. They signed a pledge.
They signed the pledge. And what was the ramifications if they didn't do what they pledged to do? Nothing. All right, stick around. We'll be right back with the weekly enterprise news. In today's threat landscape, cyber attacks move fast, and security gaps, siloed tools, and slow response can turn small incidents into major breaches. That's why organizations need a proactive, unified defense from a single trusted partner. SentinelOne Wayfinder threat detection and response delivers proactive, scalable defense built for modern threats, unifying expert-led readiness, threat hunting, incident response, and 24/7 managed detection and response. Harnessing Google Threat Intelligence, industry-leading AI technology, and unmatched expertise, Wayfinder helps teams see attacks sooner, respond faster, and reduce risk across the entire attack lifecycle. Ready to stop attacks and accelerate response? Learn more at securityweekly.com/SentinelOne. Wayfinder, where threat intelligence, AI, and human expertise deliver true cyber resilience. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software deployment and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter. METER. Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Now for the Enterprise Security Weekly news. You can check out securityweekly.com/ESW448 if you want to follow along as we go through the news or for links to the articles that we're covering. All right. So some fun stuff in Mike Prevett's weekly security funded newsletter. Before we even get to the vibe check, I thought it was interesting. He called out, he used the term security mogged. Public cybersecurities were security mogged last week. And the reason for this was Anthropic launched Claude Code Security. And of course, Robinhood day traders or, like whoever these shareholders make up freak out. They see that as cybersecurity solved by AI. And a bunch, there was apparently some panic selling, and about 15 billion of the cybersecurity market cap, not even all cybersecurity companies, just like the top 20, 15 billion in market cap was wiped out in one day.
Wow.
And that's what you get when you go public and you have uneducated people, uneducated in what it is that you do, that your business does, investing in your products. So last segment, we were just talking about how I don't really think it makes sense for cybersecurity companies to go operate as public, and this is one of those reasons.
Agreed.
So the vibe check was very spicy that Mike Prevett put out there. One of the new features for RSA Innovation Sandbox, I think this is now the second year that they've done this, is that the top 10 finalists participating in the RSA Innovation Sandbox contest, which is very much like a Dragon's Den or a, what's the US version called?
Shark Tank type of competition where they get to actually very strict. I don't know if Dragon's Den does this, but they cut your mic off after 3 minutes. You give a 3-minute presentation. Most of the judges are VCs, though there are a few people from industry side of things on the judge panel. It changes a little bit every year, but it's mostly the same people and mostly investors. And they decide who wins out of those 10. And one of the things, this is the second year that there's been a required equity stake to participate in this. So it's $50 million from the private equity firm that owns RSAC, which, if you haven't been keeping up, is a separate entity. It was separated out from the rest of RSA. All the RSA security products are divided up and have been, like Archer's a standalone company, and the token business is now, I think, still operating as RSA, but it's a separate company. STG bought FireEye, McAfee, RSA, broke all of it up, pieced it back together. I think Symantec also. And so the 50 million comes from the parent
private equity company of RSAC, and $5 million of that goes to each of these 10 finalists, and it's a required part of participating. And the question was, and I did not format this correctly, so bear with me here. Does this create perverse incentives? Is it good marketing but questionable ROI? Is it game changing for early stage cyber? Or does it not matter at all? Only product execution matters? Or does it help level the playing field? Well, 0% said it helps level the playing field, and 60% says that it creates perverse incentives.
Yeah.
And one of the comments here that he published, because when you vote for these vibe checks every week, you can also leave a comment. And one of the comments left reads, "This is now less an industry event about actually rewarding the more interesting and innovative companies and more about creating deal flow for the VC in question. Also try to put yourself in the place of a startup disrupting a particular segment. What if Crosspoint Capital, which is the owner of RSAC, already invested in your main competitor? Essentially, this means once they pick a winner in one category, it makes it very unlikely for other players in that category that they'll apply in the future. Eventually, the event runs out of categories and becomes irrelevant." Terrible decision.
Interesting.
Somebody else's words, not mine.
I mean, I understand what they're saying, but if your competitor, I mean, there are plenty of VCs that hedge their bets by investing in multiple companies in one vertical because they're not all going to make it. But yeah, I mean, if you were wondering why your RSA pass is so expensive, I was like, what's 50 million divided by 45,000 attendees at RSA? I would take
That's
a couple $100 off my pass. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
It was already biased.
Yeah.
The judges, like most of the judges, were investors anyway. I worked for a company and prepared our CEO for Innovation Sandbox a couple years back, 2023, I think it was. And we were very proud of the fact that we were not all in on the AI hype bandwagon. We were one of the only contestants that didn't, just randomly throw AI into our product just to be able to say that we had AI. And yeah, we got railroaded for it. The first question from the investors on the judge panel was, "Where's your AI? Why aren't you using AI?"
Yeah. Is it a fixed amount of equity that comes with that $5 million as well? So are they kind of pegging the valuation of all of these companies at equal?
It's not hard to find. I want to say yes, but it's been 2 years since I read that. It's laid out right on RSA's website, but I do not remember.
Because that is also kind of a red flag for me, because it's not possible that all of these companies are worth the exact same valuation.
Right.
So you're kind of forcing setting of a equilibrium that probably doesn't actually exist there, which sucks for the companies that have, it is what it is. Look, I guess it's free marketing. Just like when you go on Shark Tank, it's a bunch of BS. If you look at the actual hit rate of the companies in Shark Tank, and there have been plenty of exposés on the show and on how things actually work and the follow-up and support, or more likely lack thereof, of the sharks on the company. And yeah, it's a very expensive marketing, and I guess that's up to the companies to decide whether they want it or not.
I'm looking for it.
What do you think, Sean?
I don't really have an educated opinion on the matter. I think you're right, Jackie. Pegging the actual valuation at $5 million for the 10 equally doesn't inspire confidence in a company or an founder that was going forward and feels like, oh well, we could actually do a whole lot here. It doesn't make sense for them to necessarily go down that path, except for maybe some exposure.
So according to what I
understand.
found, it says it's a SAFE, which is a simple agreement
Yep.
for future equity, which means there's no predetermined equity percentage. And that sucks. I actually think that might suck even more because then, then you're kind of at the mercy of Crosspoint, right? I suppose you could try to negotiate.
Yeah,
but
I don't I don't know enough about that to understand how that works exactly. They do have an explanation there. I dropped the link into our Slack channel, but yeah, it's a good question. Now that we're a year past them doing this is the second year they're doing it. I wonder if we'll eventually hear some feedback on what it's like going through this process, this new innovation sandbox process.
So it looks like they base it on how long it is between winning or between making the top 10 and your next equity financing round.
Oh, your next financing round. Yeah. So 270 days or more, 20%. That's a big chunk for 5 million.
So they're basically forcing you into raising equity as soon as possible, which is insane. Yeah, I mean, I could see. So
insane
when I worked
or normal for VC for going this path.
I mean, insane by normal people's standards, but given that,
but by VC standards,
yeah,
you're gonna raise another round. Yeah.
Yeah, and I suppose that there's no better time to raise that round than on the heels of winning or being a finalist in the sandbox. I mean,
read their press releases, they lean on that really heavy. They talk about the percentage of contestants that raise within the next 90 days or 1 year or something like that. It's really high percentage.
Because they don't want to give up 20% of their company.
Well, even before that, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand it, like, because there are ways to do basically like when I worked at SVB, they had a service that was kind of like a 409A light. So 409A is when you're a non-publicly traded company, you have to do this kind of valuation anytime you're going to raise a round or things like that. And so they had kind of a light version of that where they would come in and do a valuation that was semi impartial, I guess. So I could see like if you had some mechanism like that in place, but I don't know. It's weird because for somebody that spent as long as I did in finance, and maybe it's just because I've been mired in all of these different private equity projects where there's so much leverage on the side of the private equity company or the private credit company that it makes it impossible for anybody to do the right thing. But I'm just so sick of the way this works and how it puts it puts entrepreneurs at a disadvantage. It puts the public at a disadvantage, but good for them. Good for the finalists who made the top 10 and are going to get $5 million. I love that for them.
Yeah, always some interesting companies there. I do think it's, I think I only recognize 2 of the top 10 companies. We talked about this a few episodes back. But yeah, we're starting to see entirely new categories here. And it's interesting, like companies I hadn't heard of around this time last year. I forget if Koi, there are one acquisition we're mentioning in the notes today. I forget if they were Innovation Sandbox, but it seemed like a really early exit for a company that people were really, really excited about. And it's kind of super, super focused on handling unmanaged and self-installed software packages. So basically like endpoint vulnerability management, patch management, remediation, security, that kind of thing, down to like the browser extension level. And a lot of CISOs I knew were really excited about it until they got this news that Palo Alto was picking them up. And they're like, no, I had such high hopes.
It'd be really interesting to track the Innovation Sandbox winners over time to see how well they do and what other rounds they get.
Yeah. It's I've done some work in the past. I do have a spreadsheet that has all the past RSA Sandbox details, contestants, winners in it. So yeah, maybe that's something we can do for an upcoming topic segment after this RSA, and we will have now 2 years of enforced equity stake winners and contestants. All right, moving on. There are some funding items. Nothing that I particularly want to talk about. Vaughn Check. I know some folks there. I'm a fan of Vaughn Check because they have a lot of really useful free vulnerability intelligence tools. They raised a 25 million Series B. They are the kind of company that they're kind of in that like gray noise category that has paid products but has really useful free products as well. And is very community focused. So I kind of root for them. So I want to call them out. The other ones I don't know as much about. Anything else there you guys want to talk about? Funding and acquisitions?
No, I think I interviewed Blue Flag a handful of months ago, but yay, congrats to them.
Software security and governance platform. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah, I think they also do identity.
SDLC security and governance, multi-layer defense. Okay, that's going to take more time than we have to understand what they do. Also talking about identities. Okay. All right. So moving on to our next story, free tools. This app, and the reason I went off camera was to retrieve it because I can do a quick demo on this. So it's an app somebody released that will tell you if anybody's wearing smart glasses in your vicinity, in your immediate vicinity. And I find it interesting for a couple of reasons. First of all, that somebody felt like people, or not felt like, but that there is demand for an app like this. Like we didn't see anything like this for smartwatches or for smartphones themselves, right? But I think people are a little bit creeped out by the Ray-Bans, the Meta Ray-Bans, and the fact that, now there are services where you can drill out the holes. So, you don't even get the LED pulsing to tell you that somebody's taking a picture or taking video. So here's where we end up. Now there's monitoring apps for it. And it works basically by looking for the Bluetooth low energy announcement frames, which I have found in my testing only work when somebody first turns on the glasses. After they've established a connection with the phone, it no longer works in detecting them, at least in my testing. So just to show you here, I'm going to take these out. They're turning on right now. You can see the little light here, and you'll be able to see it pop up on the debug log here.
Yeah, I think one of the big reasons this app became very popular this week is there's a New York Times article that came out that Meta is exploring adding facial recognition to the Ray-Bans, and supposedly it'll be via opt-in through things like Instagram, where it uses your Instagram to identify you. Nice.
I didn't press start scanning.
Oh no.
Rookie mistake. Is it going? Do something. Sorry, continue talking. Somebody posted something?
Saying that it's not as big of a deal if you're like, oh, somebody around me might be taking pictures, because you're probably in public and people can take pictures of you in public. That's
sure
part of your lack of privacy. But when you get to the point where, and I mean, this has already been done when somebody connected this to PimEyes, which is a facial recognition database. Yeah. But it looks like Meta is looking to do this in a more official capacity. And according to...
But only for the people in your contacts list, right?
Yeah, and people who opt in. And it's supposed to be like so you can pretend you didn't forget somebody's name. But it's...
Right.
It sucks.
Which is... There's some utility there that could be useful.
Yeah.
But...
And I mean, I'm not a person who has
super
much assumption
about
of
it.
Privacy because I have purple and pink hair. I'm like one of the more recognizable people in my neighborhood because of that. So I'm under no illusion that I can go incognito. But yeah, and what really sucks though is I have a couple pair of these glasses and I just really like the conductive audio. And I've tried like for a while, JBL.
I listen to audiobooks. That's like the number one thing I do with mine is I listen to audiobooks with them.
Yeah, I'll leave my phone inside and put a podcast on and put the sunglasses on and just go lay in a hammock in my backyard and listen to podcasts without my phone around to distract me, and it's great. And there are some.
I don't like having stuff shoved in my ears for like hours at a time.
Yeah, it makes my ear holes itchy.
There it goes.
Yeah, I mean,
there we go.
It is what it is. I think, people are willing to sacrifice a lot of privacy for convenience, and quite frankly, like, if I'm being honest, the cameras on those glasses suck. They really do, because the camera is offset to the right. Usually you don't end up with whatever you're trying to take a picture of center.
You can't frame it. There's nothing there's nothing. I've been pretty satisfied with the camera quality, to be honest.
I never use it.
So you get I use it when I'm doing touristy stuff. And sometimes, like, if I just want to hands-free take a picture or video of something, like when I'm on my bike going down a trail or something like that, or if there's a funny sign or something like that, like I like being able to be, like I went to Armenia last month. And I like the fact that I can just take these. I have contacts on. They are not comfortable. And I can just tap the button, or I can just say, "Hey, Meta, take a picture." And I'm not like walking around like this, I don't feel like
I just find that the camera is too wide angled for the pictures to be useful. Like you said, there's no framing, and the pixel, like the resolution, isn't good enough that you can zoom in after you take the picture. I don't know, and maybe they'll improve that, but it's
so these are first gen. They now have second gen out, and the cameras received a big bump, and they doubled the battery life as well.
Yeah, but they're thicker and bulkier and more annoying. That's why I still have the first gens. I looked at the second and was like, not for me.
Yeah, the ones with a screen embedded in them are definitely thicker. But the Oakleys are actually thinner. So they have a thing with Oakley as well, where like these that I just demonstrated, these are not waterproof. They're don't even pretend to be. But the Oakleys they're made for like your snowboarding or something like that. And they have a different camera in them that can do a higher frame rate. So you can do like slow-mo with some of the video that you take. And those are looking to be really, really popular. But,
I just hate that there's no opt-out for the, like, they combined the Meta smart glasses application with Meta AI. So you don't really have, there are very few privacy controls. Like the other day, I had my Hey Meta capability turn on when I hadn't touched my glasses, hadn't said anything. And I know for a fact they're always listening.
They have to be, right?
Yeah, because if they're trying to detect the Hey Meta, but you could, in the old app, the previous version of the app, you could turn that off. It's no longer an option to turn that off.
Yeah, and that kind of sucks if you just want to use them as like a speaker output or something like that. Yeah. But I'll often just turn them off entirely. If I'm because these are prescription glasses, the ones I have. That's why they blinded me as soon as I put them on, because I've got contacts in. But yeah, I'll leave them in if I'm not using them, because they will run out of battery in about 3 or 4 hours just maintaining that Bluetooth connection. But I agree. It would be nice to just turn off the voice activation.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. I don't even know if we want to, this next one just requires a lot of setup to talk about. But basically somebody created a framework for like cryptographically signing, compliance output, so that then you can have something, like confirm that was something that they signed. But like you're still trusting that they're not faking the output or anything like that. So I don't understand the purpose of this. It's called Corsair, Open Compliance Trust Exchange Protocol. I need to go back on LinkedIn, see if they replied to my comment, because I was like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand what this gives me that just like somebody's trust portal on their website doesn't already give me. Like, why would I trust this any more than I would trust what they put on that website? Like, maybe they forgot to scan 30% of their infrastructure. It doesn't solve any of those kinds of mistakes. So.
I didn't read this, so I can't even pretend to know.
It's okay.
I
so
agree.
Sean read a bunch of stuff. What do you want to jump to, Sean? Or do you have something to say about this before we move on?
No, I agree. I just didn't get it. So
yeah,
that was
that. And I see this every now and then. Like somebody is very, very intelligent in like a specific area. And it kind of like a hammer, everything's a nail kind of issue where they'll build something and that thing that they built within these narrow blinders is really, really cool. And it works really, really well. But if you just take off those blinders a little bit, you're like, why does this need to exist?
Yeah. I like the article. The problem isn't OpenClaw, it's the architecture, number 4. It was good because it talks about it's more of the canary instead of the actual issue. When we have the situation where we have an autonomous tool use, easy plug-in installs, users who just want things to just work, and attackers that love free distribution, it's just all that's going to come together, because the article says that the lesson is agent plus tools plus marketplace is a new attack surface. And I agree 100% with them on that.
Yeah, and this is from Matt Johansson and his Vulnerable You media empire that he's kind of built, him and just a few other folks here. But he's probably one of the most visible cybersecurity influencers right now. You see him all over TikTok and Instagram and YouTube. And yeah, I think it's a really good take. It's a really good kind of forward-looking. Like OpenClaw is just the first of probably many of these things that we're going to see. That are
and even the developer says, be careful when using this because there could be dangerous things that happen. I think the natural jump from this article would be to the one about the AI person who lost their email.
Well, and before we leave this one, he concludes, as far as I can see, unless you got something else out of it, that we just don't have the tooling to make this safe yet.
Right.
No, and it's the incentives here. It goes back to the private equity conversation we were having. There is such a desperation on behalf of AI companies to demonstrate utility and demand. And so there is absolutely no incentive to screen any of the agents for security issues, because the more you have, the quicker you can build this massive database full of things that something can do, the more demand that you can generate, the more you can show that people just really desperately want AI to do things for them. And are people willing to FAFO? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that, the reason that Wikipedia has been around for as long as it has.
Just to be fair to the developer here, he really made an effort to let you know you will be FAFOing.
Yeah, but yes, absolutely. But this goes to the problem of empathizing with people who are less intelligent or technically inclined than you are. I think a lot of times people sitting on the right side of the bell curve forget how standard distribution works, and forget that you are probably smarter than 87.5% of people around you. And so you can give people all the disclaimers in the world that you want. You still need guardrails. You can tell people not to stand up on a roller coaster, but unless you physically restrain them to that seat, some moron is going to stand up on that roller coaster.
Yep.
And so, there's this massive desperation to show AI demand, and there just is no financial incentive or no financial penalty for creating bad tools. And because at the end of the day, there's like the same 6 companies trying to profit from AI demand, nobody's nobody's watching things. And what I was saying about Wikipedia is the reason Wikipedia has been around as long as it has and is trusted as much as it is that Wikipedia is not relentlessly focused on having as much information on Wikipedia as possible. It's focused on curating the right information.
Quality.
And so until we have some type of incentive
and trust
for people to curate capabilities with AI to keep these things from happening, it's just people aren't going to just do the right thing. And there's a reason that you have some type of supply chain security on most things that are important. And right now we just don't have that because I don't even know that we've wrapped our heads around everything that can really go wrong. Like the next story we're going to talk about in terms of even if you say check in first.
Maybe that's its purpose, Jackie. Maybe this is digital Darwinism at its best, and we're just having those folks just speed run all the possible things that could go wrong as quickly as possible. And then we get to the end quick.
Yeah. I just think there comes a point where you have to question, like, what responsibility should come with this level of capability and what we need to be doing to protect the other 87.5% of people who maybe don't have the technical understanding to really know what they're doing when they say, because even if you tell it what to do, it's going to do the wrong thing, as the next story demonstrates. And so it's easy for us as professionals who work in this industry to say, well, you should have known what was going to happen. But I just think that that's not realistic, given that we're a very small percentage of the population and we're trying to present this technology as something that should be GA already and that average people should be able to use because they can't.
Yeah. I mean, this kind of thing has never been an issue when it required like level 30 Linux admin skills to implement it. But now that they've made it like click run, like there are even services where people will set this up for you, where they will like pre-install it on a device and send it to you and that kind of stuff. And that's just, I think Eamon talked about that the other week, where this guy was just like attaching like a backdoor to it that he had access to. It does become like, it's not an issue that we've had to deal with before. I don't think you stop people from releasing open source, like it's not malware. I think some of that onus has to be on the tech providers that people are connecting these things to.
Yeah. Well, I think Jackie touches on the psychology of it pretty well. And that ties into article number 8, humans will give AI.
Yeah, tell us what the meta director of AI safety.
Well, actually, before we get to that one, there's another one that ties into what Jackie was just talking about, where humans will give AI anything if you make it sound cool enough.
Oh, Javad Malik. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so one user, according to the article, gave his agent $500 and watched it create 25 trading strategies, generate 3,000 plus reports, build 10 new algorithms, scan every post on X, and trade 24/7 nonstop. The result, it lost everything. Not most of it, everything. The agent traded the portfolio down to zero with the kind of efficiency that would make a casino jealous.
Weird, because I just saw Elon Musk post that his AI agent just took money in and spit crypto out. I don't know if you saw that, but like that's the problem. Nope. Is that we're trying to make these things sound like anybody can use them. It's not Tron.
Can we take a moment for that line, though, with an efficiency that would make a casino jealous? I love that line.
Right?
Oh, man. Continue, Sean.
Oh, yeah. So that article was good because it talked about how people will just continue to use it. They will do a lot of things around it. And that OpenClaw is not a technology problem. It's a trust problem. And even people that don't understand what they do, they trust it anyway because it feels like they'll get left behind if they don't embrace it and try to do something with it. And ultimately, we're going to AI is going to be adopted in a variety of places. OpenClaw is just the beginning of it, and so it's going to be something that we have to figure it out. and the article ends with, and someone somewhere right now, someone is giving an AI agent access to something they absolutely shouldn't, convinced they're glimpsing the future.
And I think one thing that'll help are more of these cautionary tales, these stories of bad things happening to people using this stuff. We might have one of those.
Yeah.
We do.
Who wants to take that one?
Go for it.
Yeah, so the meta director of AI safety. So not just anybody, right? Like if we're hearing this story about the meta director of AI safety, this has probably already happened to at least 1,000 other people that are not noteworthy, journalism worthy people. So 404 Media, always on top of the slopaverse, these kinds of stories, broke this one where, and kudos to what's her name for sharing the downside of this. I'm not logged into 404 Media in this browser, so I do not have her name. But the meta director, she willingly shared this, which I think is, let me open up threads here. So she actually shared screenshots where she was trying to use AI to clean up her inbox, right? Amazing use case. I would love I think I have hundreds of thousands of emails in my Gmail inbox that has existed since 2006. It is a hot mess. And very excited about the idea of something being able to go in with some simple rules and clean it up. And this thing just RM-F. What is the command? I'm having a brain fart, Sean. Help me with
the
my
Linux command.
Yeah. RM-RF. Is it? Yeah. Recursive and force. Yeah. RM-RF. All right.
Maybe when she said
I mentioned I need a vacation.
First,
bear with me.
Maybe when she said confirm first, it misinterpreted it as like confirm delete, not confirm with me before deleting.
Yeah.
Like, do the
You have to
damn
be
thing.
so specific with AI, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so many, you realize very quickly how many misinterpretations. And she's like, what's going on? Can you describe what's going on? And her original prompt, she said, she's asking it to clean it up, but don't actually do anything unless she gives it the thumbs up. And it just went and did it anyway.
Yeah.
And in the middle of it, she's saying, stop OpenClaw. And it's just deleting her entire inbox.
No. So I want
all remaining old stuff and nuke it.
Yeah. I want to liken this to I've been thinking about this the last couple days, and here's a statistic for you that I think is kind of crazy. In New York City, bicycle deaths reached a 24-year high in 2023 with 30 fatalities, 23 of whom were riding e-bikes. Head trauma from e-bike accidents increased 49-fold nationally between 2017 and 2022. In California, e-bike incidents rose by 1,800% from 2018 to 2023. So I've been thinking about this because it used to be that to ride a dirt bike, it took some level of skill. You had to be able to put the damn thing in gear, which for a lot of people right there is a non-starter, to be punny. And so this kind of to me is like that, because I see kids ripping around my neighborhood all the time now on these electric dirt bikes that require very little in the way of skill other than being able to balance a bicycle. But these things
or
can
effort.
they can go 20, 25 miles an hour. And if you know how to remove the governor on them, they can get up to close to 40 miles an hour. And I know multiple people whose kids have smashed into other people's cars that they've had to pay for, have seriously injured themselves, breaking bones, head trauma, things like that. And to me, this is kind of the digital equivalent of that. It seems like a great thing. Oh, these things are so much cheaper now. They're easier. But there's a reason that there should be a little bit of a barrier to entry. And so this is like the digital equivalent of an e-bike, in that like you can't just give somebody free reign to use things that can be very dangerous and, do a lot of destructive harm, like without any barrier to entry. And I think that, to think about incidents from these things up 1,800% in 5 years, and nobody saying, hey, this is probably an issue. I think there's an analogy there, because
we have decided as a society that we are okay. Maybe not all of us are okay, but enough people are okay with our society being, or at least our regulatory environment being sacrifice based. Some people are going to die, and then we'll make some rules so that they don't die. But we're never going to make those rules initially, even if it's really obvious that these accidents, these incidents, these deaths are going to happen. We're still, this Wild West mindset where we're going to let all the bad things happen before we even think about making any laws or rules or anything like that, regulating this stuff.
Yeah, and it's only going to happen if somebody has enough money to sue somebody over it and continue to pursue that case even when the other side has millions for attorneys. And that's, I don't know, we've gotten to a place where people can do bad things, and it's on other people to try to prevent those bad things. This is not good.
Right. We got, OpenClaw and e-bikes, and those one wheels, man, so many, so much like motorcycle level accidents. I've seen people have with those one wheels. Those things are super fast too.
So before we move on, going back to the article about the problem is in OpenClaw, it's the architecture. They say that the trap is that people write a strong system prompt and called it guardrails, like never exfiltrate secrets, only store credentials in the vault. Ask me before running risky commands. It says nice intentions, not enforcement. Really what needs to be done is an allow list. And in this case, Summer, you had it, like you said, Adrian, trying to clean up the mailbox, but let me know first, and had to run to her Mac Mini where OpenClaw was installed and stop the process. And so then at the end of her post that she made, OpenClaw said, lesson noted, don't go on extended autonomous cleanup runs. Check in after the first batch, not after 200 plus email. What do you need? And then she said, I asked you not to not action on anything until I approve. Do you remember that? It seems you were deleting my emails without my approval, and I couldn't get you to stop until I killed all the processes on the host. And then OpenClaw responded, yes, I remember, and I violated it. You're right to be upset. And it went on to talk about what it did. I've written this into memory as a hard rule. Show the plan, get explicit approval, then execute. No autonomous bulk operations on email messages, calendar, anything.
Yeah, it's great at writing apologies. The problem is,
then it says, I'm sorry.
It doesn't
won't
stop
happen
it from
again.
making the mistakes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it'll say it won't happen again, and it'll say it put it in its memory, and then it'll happen again.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I guess this is how everything works, right? It's like 3M being like, oh, shit, you're right. Oh, sorry, that firefighting foam, that totally screws up everything it ever touches and contaminates groundwater forever. We won't do that again. But, that doesn't stop the damage. It just, they're like, oops, my bad.
Every living thing has long carbon chains inside it now. Oops.
Yeah. The good news is that your intestines are now non-stick.
Right? I don't know. Yeah. All right. Just 3 minutes left. What should we grab here before we wrap up?
Can we do the robot story?
Squirrel story?
The robot vacuum?
Yeah. Tell us about the vacuum lord.
Yeah, so Sandy Asdufal, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, wanted to steer his DJI Romo robotic vacuum with a gaming controller, a PS3 gaming controller. And so he reportedly asked an AI coding assistant to help reverse engineer how the robot communicated with the remote cloud servers. But he discovered that the same credentials that allowed him to see and control his own device also provide access to live camera feeds, microphone audio, maps, and status data from nearly 7,000 other vacuums across 24 countries. And so he would have been able to turn them into surveillance machines without the owners knowing it, because of the sensors that are on the devices. And so he did get it fixed. He reached out to DJI and say, hey, this is a problem. It probably shouldn't have the same API key for all of them. They should probably have their own individual one. But the robot vacuum cleaner, like a lot of them now, have the camera on and can go ahead and map what the rooms are, so it knows which is which room and how to work. So because there was a single token for this, he was granted access to all of them, effectively treating him as the owner of it. So he claims that he would be able to tap into the real-time camera feeds, activate their microphones, compile 2D floor plans of the homes the robots were operating in, and then identifying, based on the IP addresses, their approximate locations. He said this wasn't hacking. He just stumbled upon this. And DJI has issued a fix through 2 updates, initial patch deployed on February 8th and a follow-up completed on February 10th. So the patches were updated automatically, deployed automatically, so no one had to do anything. But he was able to actually control his robotic vacuum cleaner with a PS3 remote.
Yeah, this is probably the 200th time at least that this has happened. This is a very predictable and common IoT architecture mistake. And if you there's IoT platforms out there that will prevent you from making this mistake if you use them. If you use what AWS has, like there's some purpose-built IoT platforms out there that will manage this kind of session level stuff for you. For managing these different devices, with each consumer having different credentials, different encryption keys, all of that stuff. But I guess it's like encryption now. You shouldn't roll your own, right? But they
Right.
rolled their own, made the same dang mistake that everybody else did. Like the other really common one is using the MAC address as a credential, right? Yeah. Like all you need to get into the database to see everybody's data is the MAC address of your device. Is
that a bug or a feature, right? Because isn't DJI currently appealing an import ban on its drones? The FCC banned all new DJI drone imports, and they just filed suit over that a couple days ago.
Well, there's a back door if the U.S. government wants them to put in it's already there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that you always have to wonder, how long has this existed, and who knew about it and decided that if it was useful for their own purposes, it didn't need to be fixed.
I tend to go the Hanlon's razor route, which is assume stupidity before malintent.
Malintent, yeah.
Yeah. All right, with that, we are going to jump to the squirrel story and wrap things up here. And what did I choose for the squirrel story? So this is really dumb. I mean, for somebody who's kind of a gadget nerd like me, who's been I still have BlackBerries. I still have a lot of old phones. Every now and then I revive them. I turn them on. But if you've ever turned on a 2-year-old laptop and tried to log into a modern website, you'll know how quickly the web standards change. And you don't have TLS v1, v2, 1.0, 1.2, 1.1. You can't even log into a website in a lot of cases. So expecting to pick up a BlackBerry and to be able to use it. And I actually did this myself not too long ago. I have a BlackBerry Passport, which is one of the funkiest and coolest BlackBerries they ever made, as a completely square screen. And then the keyboard below can also be used as a touchpad to kind of move a cursor around the screen. So your finger isn't covering the screen when you're doing stuff. And it's a shame. It's a really neat form factor. But it is almost useless. Hardly any of the apps work on it because all the API endpoints have changed. There's no new versions of the apps. It doesn't have the latest encryption algorithms that you need to even log into a website from a browser on the phone. So it's I don't know. I don't know what this person was expecting, but they came to the same conclusion I have come to. that, yeah, you can't pick up a 17-year-old BlackBerry and expect it to be like a minimalist phone, right?
Well, and it wouldn't even connect to the cellular network because it was only compatible with 3G networks. And now we have 4G and 5G. So they actually have to go and purchase a BlackBerry Classic Q20, which supports 4G, which was popular around 10 years ago, and use that. But BlackBerry shut down their servers in 2022. So they had to sideload apps and basically use the Project Berry 2.0 YouTube channel to figure out how to do that. And even the apps that she was able to get working on them barely worked. So it was absolutely what you said, an exercise in frustration and nothing that really, basically it was a failed experiment, and ended up going with something called Brick, which is basically where you can lock yourself out of using social media and other apps on your phone until you touch your phone to a physical brick that you have. And in this case, the author had put the brick on her refrigerator. So you have to touch the brick to the refrigerator in order to unlock it, to use whatever apps are then bricked. So I thought it was interesting. It was quite a journey.
The weirdest quote in this whole thing is, when I began this experiment, I had told myself that I would be just fine with access to calls, text, Google Maps, and my banking app. But the idea of these apps crashing on me while I was out, no access to Wi-Fi or a secondary phone with proper connectivity. It's like, I just don't know what you expected. Yeah. And they make flip phones. Like a handful of my kids' friends have just regular flip phones. So get a flip phone. They exist. They do the things that you need them to do. I do miss
and there's nice features built into most modern phones today, or you can get it as an app where you can restrict the functionality of your phone as much as you want to. I mean, the only downside is you also know how to undo it. You have to have the you have to have the wherewithal to not immediately reverse it when you get frustrated or you want to scroll through Instagram.
It's like when I put the cookies on the top shelf in the cabinet and I tell myself I won't get them down, but then I'm just back and forth to the cabinet top shelf all the time.
Yep. It's hard. I understand. All right. With that, I'd never seen this brick thing before. So this is an NFC thing with a magnet in it that you put on your fridge?
Yeah, or you just put somewhere, the idea is to put it somewhere that's inconvenient, so that way you have to actually get up and go over to it to tap it, to then unbrick the apps that you want to then use. And she even said that there are situations where she didn't feel like getting up off the couch to go to the refrigerator, so just didn't bother opening up that app.
Yeah.
That actually might be, so I've noticed, like, when I want to, I tend to overeat. That's why I'm the size I am. And I found, like, when I get into the habit of counting calories, if something is going to be hard to enter into my food database, like, it is a great deterrent. Like, I don't want to spend the extra 10 minutes figuring out what the ingredients are, how many calories are in it. Like, if it's not easy to enter into the database, I'll just avoid eating the food altogether. I'll snack less, just because I've already made the habit. Like, I've decided, okay, like, everything I consume is going into this database. And that actually works pretty well for me. So maybe this is the equivalent for social apps on a phone. It's an interesting approach. And I love that they called it the brick.
Yeah. Right.
It's a great name for it. Great advertising. All right. With that, thanks, Scott and Sean and Jackie for joining me today.
Thank you.
Yay.
Where Scott came from. I need a vacation.
You're getting it.
Big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Enterprise Security Weekly. I hope you have more vacations in your life soon. Especially in the middle of winter. It's a good time to go on vacation. Next week, me and Jackie will be at Zero Trust World, so we will not be here on the show. Matt Alderman, the host of Business Security Weekly, will be babysitting the podcast for us and hosting, as I do for him often when he goes on vacation or is stuck in Mexico because he can't fly home because there's a snowstorm or something like that. He'll be talking to Anna Pham from Huntress about the state of malware and endpoint attacks, and talking to David Zendian from Broadcom about AppSec and container security. And then we'll be back week after next, and we'll have 2 more regular shows before RSA messes everything up and the show gets all kind of wonky for a while. All right, that's all. See you next time. Bye-bye.